Welcome back to our channel Rare Coins History, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, treasures that might be hiding right in your pocket change or tucked away in an old jar on the shelf. If you think coins are just small pieces of metal, today's story might completely change the way you look at them. Today, we are stepping back more than a century in time to explore one of America's most iconic and beloved coins, the Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny from the year 1917. This humble-looking copper coin holds an incredible place in U.S. history, not just because of its age, but because of its connection to the era in which it was minted, the artistry of its design, and the hidden fortune it could represent to collectors today. Before we reveal just how much this small coin can be worth, let's take a moment to imagine life in 1917. The United States was on the edge of change. World War I was raging overseas, Woodrow Wilson was the president, and the average American wage was just a few dollars a day. A single cent back then had real purchasing power. You could buy a loaf of bread, a newspaper, or even a handful of candy. So the penny wasn't just a coin, it was a piece of everyday survival. The 1917 Lincoln Wheat Penny belongs to the famous wheat cent series, which was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was a historic decision. Before Lincoln, no real person had ever appeared on U.S. coinage. The design, created by the talented sculptor Victor David Brenner, features a bold portrait of Lincoln on the front, or obverse, with his calm yet determined expression. On the reverse, you'll find two wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, symbolizing prosperity and abundance. Now, here's the fascinating part. The 1917 wheat penny comes from a time when coins were still made of nearly pure copper. Over decades, copper can develop a beautiful natural patina, giving each surviving coin its own unique character. But what really excites collectors about this year's penny are the minting variations and condition factors that can send its value skyrocketing. In 1917, the U.S. Mint struck these pennies in 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a small d; and San Francisco, marked with an S. While millions were produced, time has taken its toll. Most of the coins you'll find today will be worn, scratched, or damaged from years of circulation. But those rare survivors that remain in excellent condition, especially with a sharp strike, full details, and original luster, are the real treasures. Collectors particularly prize coins graded at high mint state levels, such as MS-65 or higher, where every detail of Lincoln's hair, face, and the wheat stalks is crisp and clear. Add in special variations like double die errors, where the lettering appears slightly double due to a misalignment in the minting process, and you've got a recipe for incredible value. Imagine holding a 1917 wheat penny that has traveled through more than 100 years of history. It survived wars, economic depressions, and technological revolutions, yet still shines with its original beauty. For some collectors, it's not just about the money, it's about owning a piece of American heritage that connects them to the past in a way nothing else can. So how much could a 1917 Lincoln Wheat Penny be worth today? Well, if you've got an ordinary one in well-worn condition, it might only fetch a few dollars. But if you happen to find one in pristine, uncirculated condition with perfect details and possibly even a rare minting error, then you are looking at a coin that has sold to collectors for as much as $143,200. Today, we're diving into a story that takes us back more than 8 decades, a time when the United States was in the middle of one of the most intense and challenging chapters of its history. In 1942, the world was at war, industries were changing, and even the coins jingling in people's pockets were connected to the events shaping the globe. One such coin, the Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny from 1942, may look like just another small copper piece to the untrained eye, but its history, design, and rare variations make it a true star in the world of numismatics. So, let's step back in time and discover how this tiny cent became a fascinating collectible, worth so much more than its face value. First, let's set the scene. The year was 1942, and the U.S. Mint was producing the Lincoln Wheat Penny in full swing. These coins were made primarily of copper, as they had been since the series started in 1909. But here's where history kicks in. The Second World War was demanding more metal for ammunition, vehicles, and other military supplies. As a result, the U.S. Mint began experimenting with alternative materials, which would eventually lead to the famous steel pennies in 1943. But in 1942, most of the pennies struck were still traditional copper, giving collectors today a fascinating look at the last, fully wartime copper cents before big changes arrived. The design of the 1942 wheat penny is instantly recognizable and timeless. On the obverse, we see the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design had already been in use for over 3 decades, but it remained a patriotic favorite. Around Lincoln's head, the inscriptions read, "In God We Trust," along the top, "Liberty" to the left, and the date, 1942, to the right. Some coins from this year bear a mint mark under the date, a small D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, while others, minted in Philadelphia, have no mint mark at all. The reverse of the coin features the iconic wheat ears, framing the words, 1 cent, in large bold letters, with United States of America just beneath it. Above, the familiar motto, E pluribus unum, reminds us of the nation's unity. The wheat design, also created by Brenner, had been used since 1909 and would continue until the series was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. Now, while most 1942 wheat pennies are relatively common because millions were minted, the real excitement for collectors comes from condition, mint errors, and rare varieties. A 1942 penny in heavily circulated condition may be worth only a small premium, but coins that have survived in pristine, uncirculated quality, especially with original luster, can command serious attention from collectors. Error coins from 1942 are where things get truly thrilling. Imagine finding a penny struck off-center, or with a double die on the obverse, making Lincoln's profile or the lettering appear doubled. There are also transitional errors, coins accidentally struck on different planchets due to the mint's material experiments for wartime production. These are incredibly scarce and highly sought after. Another key factor that makes some 1942 pennies valuable is their grade. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC in mint state, MS, 65 or higher, with sharp details and no visible wear, can bring in astonishing prices at auctions. And if the coin is a rare variety combined with such a grade, you might be looking at a small fortune for something that once bought a stick of gum. Think about it, these pennies have traveled through history, passed through countless hands, survived wars, recessions, and decades of circulation. Each one holds a story, but the rarest among them are true survivors, frozen in time as they looked the day they left the mint. And now, for the part you've been waiting for, how much could a top-quality 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny be worth today? Well, in certain exceptional cases, such as coins with rare errors or in immaculate mint state condition, they have been known to sell for as much as $53,600. Today, we're traveling back to a time just after the hardships of World War II, into an era of booming optimism in the United States, the year 1950. And at the heart of our story today is a humble, small, copper coin, the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny from 1950. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny. A small, brown coin that most people wouldn't even bother to bend down and pick up if they saw it on the sidewalk. But trust me, there is nothing ordinary about the 1950 wheat penny. This coin has stories to tell, secrets to reveal, and in certain rare conditions, it could be worth a small fortune. By the end of this video, you'll see why this tiny coin could make you do a double take next time you're sifting through your spare change. Let's start by setting the stage. The year is 1950. Harry S. Truman is president, the Korean War hasn't yet begun, and post-war America is enjoying a surge in manufacturing and optimism. The Lincoln Wheat Penny, already a familiar sight since its introduction in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, was still a trusted and beloved piece of currency in everyday life. By 1950, it had been in production for over 40 years, and people used it daily for everything from buying a cup of coffee to a bus fare, but not all 1950 Lincoln cents were created equal. While millions were produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, a select few came off the minting presses with exceptional quality, unusual errors, or in pristine conditions that today make collectors' hearts race. These are the pennies that could transform your ordinary coin into a treasure. The obverse of the coin, that's the front, proudly features the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner. His profile faces right, with the word Liberty to the left and the date, 1950, to the right. If there's a small d or s below the date, that means your penny came from the Denver or San Francisco Mint, respectively. No mint mark? That's from Philadelphia. On the reverse side, we see the iconic two wheat stalks curving inward, framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America, with the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, along the top, a design that earned these coins their wheat penny nickname. Now, here's where the story gets truly exciting, the reasons why some of these coins are worth so much. First, there are error coins. The minting process in the 1950s, though more advanced than decades earlier, was still prone to human and mechanical error. Off-center strikes, double die obverse, and clipped planchets can send a coin's value skyrocketing. Imagine finding a penny where Lincoln's face appears doubled, or where part of the design is missing entirely due to a misaligned strike. Collectors go wild for these rarities. Then, there's condition and grading. A 1950 wheat penny that's been rattling around in pockets, cash registers, and drawers for decades will be scratched, worn, and dull. But every so often, someone stumbles upon a penny that looks like it just left the mint, sharp details, full luster, no scratches. These high-grade examples, often graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services, are what make headlines at coin auctions, and let's not forget about proof coins. While proofs from 1950 are rare and were never meant for circulation, if one somehow ended up in the wild, you could be holding something extremely valuable. Proof coins have mirror-like finishes and sharp details that regular circulation strikes simply can't match. It's these factors, the combination of rarity, historical context, minting errors, and pristine preservation, that make certain 1950 Lincoln Wheat pennies so sought after today. Every collector dreams of stumbling upon one. And the best part? You don't need to be a millionaire to start looking. These coins still pop up in old jars, inherited collections, or even in your pocket change if you're very, very lucky. So, the next time you see a penny from 1950, don't toss it aside. Inspect it closely. Look for a mint mark, check for doubling on the date or lettering, examine its condition. You never know, that 1 cent piece could be hiding a value that will leave you speechless, because yes, some rare 1950 Lincoln Wheat pennies in perfect, gem-quality condition have sold for as much as $50,300. Today, we are diving into the world of one of the most beloved coins among collectors, the Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny from the year 1953. At first glance, this little copper coin might seem ordinary. You might even pass it by without a second thought if you found it in your change. But hidden within this humble penny is a remarkable piece of American history, and in some cases, a shocking amount of value that could leave you absolutely speechless. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series began in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent designed by Victor David Brenner. This coin featured the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, marking the first time in U.S. history that a real person, rather than a symbolic figure, appeared on circulating coinage. This was a bold move at the time, and it was done to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Now, the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny was struck during the post-World War II era, a time when America was entering a new age of prosperity and innovation. The coins of this year were made primarily from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving them that warm, reddish-brown tone that collectors love. They were produced at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, with no mint mark; Denver, with a small d below the date, and San Francisco, marked with an S. But why would a 1953 penny be worth so much more than its face value? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and sometimes in fascinating mint errors. Millions of these coins were produced, but over time, circulation has worn down most examples, leaving only a small number in pristine, uncirculated condition. Coins that have survived in gem or mint state condition are far rarer, making them highly sought after. One thing to note is that certain varieties of the 1953 penny can dramatically increase its value. For example, double die obverse, where the date or lettering shows a slight doubling effect due to a misalignment during minting, are incredibly collectible. Off-center strikes, die cracks, and other mint errors also add to a coin's appeal and price. The coin's historical connection is another major factor in its popularity. Collectors love coins that tell a story, and the Lincoln Wheat Penny series connects directly to one of the most influential figures in American history. Holding one of these coins in your hand is like holding a small piece of America's past, a time capsule from an era when pennies were made to last and copper was still a primary component. Another reason the 1953 Lincoln penny has become a collector's favorite is its role in completing wheat penny sets. Many numismatists aim to collect one penny from every year of production from 1909 to 1958. Since 1953 falls right in that sweet spot before the wheat reverse was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959, finding a high-grade example can make all the difference in completing a top-tier collection. Over the years, the market for wheat pennies has grown steadily, with more and more collectors realizing their historical and monetary value. In particular, 1950s wheat pennies in immaculate condition have shown impressive results at coin auctions, and the 1953 edition is no exception. Some coins have even stunned collectors with the prices they fetch when all the right factors, condition, rarity, and demand, come together. So, the next time you're sorting through a jar of old coins or checking change from a purchase, don't dismiss those copper-colored cents too quickly. Take a closer look. You might just discover a hidden treasure that has been quietly sitting in circulation for decades. And here's the kicker: a 1953 Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny, in the right condition and with the right features, has been known to sell for as much as $47,900. Yes, you heard that right, nearly $50,000 for a single penny. Today, we're going to explore one of the most iconic and historical coins in U.S. history, the Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny from the year 1939. This little piece of copper might seem ordinary at first glance, but trust me, it holds a rich history, some surprising secrets, and a potential value that could shock you. So, stay tuned until the very end, because we'll reveal how much this coin could be worth in the collector's market today. Let's start with the background. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series was introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was a groundbreaking moment in American coinage because, for the first time, a real person, and a president, was featured on a circulating U.S. coin. The wheat reverse design, with its two stalks of wheat framing the denomination, 1 cent, symbolized prosperity and America's agricultural heritage. The 1939 wheat penny comes from an interesting period in U.S. history. America was just starting to recover from the Great Depression, and while the country was not yet involved in World War II, global tensions were rising. Coins from this era are a reflection of the economic challenges and resilience of the American people. The 1939 penny was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from each mint can have different values depending on rarity, condition, and certain mint errors that can make them highly desirable to collectors. Now, let's talk about the design. On the obverse, you have Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a timeless, dignified image that has endured for more than a century. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust," while to his left is the word "Liberty," and to his right is the date, 1939. Some coins also have a mint mark just below the date, a small D for Denver or S for San Francisco. Coins without a mint mark were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The reverse is where you'll find the 2 iconic wheat ears curving along the edges, framing the bold 1 cent and the words United States of America. Above that is the Latin phrase E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. This simple yet powerful design connects the coin to America's values and history. What makes the 1939 wheat penny so interesting to collectors is not just its design, but also the potential for rare varieties and mint errors. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins with double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, or other unusual minting quirks. These errors can significantly increase a coin's value. For example, a 1939 penny with a strong double die on the obverse, where the date and lettering appear doubled under magnification, can be worth much more than a standard piece. Condition plays a huge role in determining value. Coins in average circulated condition might be worth just a few cents to a few dollars. But if you find a 1939 wheat penny in uncirculated, mint state condition, meaning it looks almost exactly as it did the day it left the mint, its value can jump dramatically. Red color designation, which refers to the original bright copper tone, also adds premium value compared to brown or red-brown coins. It's also worth noting that the mintage numbers were relatively high for 1939, but survival rates of pristine examples are much lower. Many coins from that time were heavily used in daily commerce, which means finding one today in top condition is much more challenging, and now comes the part you've been waiting for, the potential value. While most 1939 wheat pennies are worth modest amounts, there are rare, high-grade examples and special era coins that have sold for impressive sums in auctions. In one extraordinary case, a pristine, high-grade 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny fetched an incredible $44,200, yes, over $44,000 for a single penny, so, the next time you come across an old wheat penny in your change, don't overlook it. That little copper coin could be more than just spare change, it could be a small fortune waiting to be discovered. Check the date, look for mint marks, examine it for errors, and most importantly, consider its condition. You might just have a hidden treasure sitting in your pocket or coin jar.